Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lynn Lowdown. I'm Danny Vittori, and today we have on Sara Stanley, the Executive Director for Healing Abuse, Working for Change. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Danny.
Great. And you said you're a little familiar with here. You've been on Jim Carrigan's show once, but you said it was a few years ago. Right?
That's right. But I love your program. Thanks for having me on.
Great. So can you start by, for anyone who maybe isn't familiar with your organization, can you give a little overview of what your main goals are?
Sure. So HAWC stands for Healing Abuse, Working for Change. We've actually been serving the North Shore for 46 years now. And our goal is to provide support services to anyone that's experiencing partner abuse. And that really ranges from someone who has questions about whether their relationship is healthy or not, to people that are really experiencing a risk of, and physical harm, working to help everyone along that spectrum be in a safer, healthier place.
And one big piece I noticed with you is the education, not educating people who may know somebody, but also really dispelling the myths around domestic violence, which I hadn't really thought about before.
Yeah, it's so important, right? I mean, a lot of folks have this kind of misconception that it's easy to leave a relationship. And I think one thing we know is that a lot of relationships are tough, but especially when someone is using abusive tactics, it can be really challenging. Tactics such as gaslighting and isolating someone from all of the other kind of influences in your life, it can really be a downward spiral in people's sense of independence and confidence. And so that's something that we work to help people understand, both for themselves and in the greater community.
Because you provide a pretty wide range of services, from legal, hospital, emergency. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about those?
Yeah. So definitely it's really important for us to make sure everybody knows that we're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on our emergency hotline. So, 2 o'clock in the morning, if you need to talk to someone, you can call that hotline and you'll get a live person. And so that's something we're really proud of. So you can come into one of our two offices, one here, right here in Lynn at 20 Central Ave, and also in Salem at 27 Congress Street. We are and when you come into those offices, we can talk to you about safety planning and kind of setting goals for, what's going to be most helpful for you at this step of your life. And then we're at 5 local courts where you can, if you need to apply for a restraining order or what we call an abuse prevention order, we're there to help you there as well. Our folks can stand up with you in court, and just having someone by your side can make a big difference.
You said try to reduce the isolation piece of it, make them feel like they're not alone in trying to fight this without any help.
Yeah. We just had someone come into, who was living in our, we have a 9-room emergency shelter, and someone was moving out, and she said the most important thing we did for her was first and foremost when we let her know that she wasn't alone. So that is always a sense of hope and connection that we're trying to provide.
How would you say, hopelessness can be so prevalent in that situation? How does your organization go about trying to help these survivors feel like they can escape and have a new life?
Yeah. So, sometimes, a lot of times it's first and foremost like you're understanding your rights. So as a family law attorney, you can sit across from someone and saying, like, this is how you can secure custody of your child. That's a really important piece of information. Likewise, we try to provide people with the tools they need to start a new life. We have a great new partnership with this organization called More Than a Phone, and they're going to help us provide free smartphones in a small pilot project, with including data service. We also have a program with Essex County Community Foundation to be able to provide laptops and internet service. So giving people information, but also some of the tangible tools they need.
Yeah, giving them both.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a little bit about the children. You also have specific services, unfortunately, for some of those children as well.
Yeah.
Which would be what?
So children who have witnessed or experienced domestic violence are really at a high risk for either, experiencing partner abuse in the future or perpetrating violence in the future. And that's why that is a real focus point for us, to provide therapeutic services for kids who've witnessed DV and help them process what they've experienced, build some coping skills so that they can hopefully break that cycle. And you know what people do, like if you think about your friends and family, we know people that break that cycle. And that's a really important part of knowing that like we can change the tide of this.
And another big piece that I even noticed in a little bit in the mission statement when it was founded was saying it can't be something a behind closed doors issue anymore. You have to shed light on it, as horrible as it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think building up our muscle to talk about partner abuse and partner violence is a really important step to just making sure that people feel comfortable seeking services and seeking support. I would say like it's a public health issue, right? It impacts the way children learn, impacts your ability to go to work, it impacts everything about our community. So we need to treat it like a public health issue.
And on that note, how would people get involved with HAWC, even just, volunteer or they want to give back?
Yeah, oh my gosh. I love to have people involved because, it's all about community, right? That's why we do these shows. That's why, and that's what's going to make things better. So there's a whole range of ways people can get involved. Businesses can join our annual corporate partnership program. You can be super cool and have your business name on the back of our Walk for HAWC t-shirts in June. So that's for businesses. For individuals, you can volunteer with us. You can get trained as one of our community ambassadors, which is kind of a cool way to kind of step up and be a person in the community who's ready to be a resource for folks. So we really love for folks to get involved. And coming up in June will be our Walk for HAWC. That's in its 32nd year. That's a 5K walk and run. And that's a fun way to get people involved as well.
That's just great. And a little bit on that line, the collaboration. You talk about collaborating with so many other organizations, departments, and why is that line of communication so important?
Oh, it's so important because we know some people are going to make their way to us, but not everybody. Most people want to get help from a friend or family member or someone else that they're already connected to. So we want to make sure everyone out there is prepared to help. So, we collaborate with Lynn Community Health Center, the Lynn PD Police Department, the Lynn School Systems, and so many other great organizations here in town, Raw Arts, because we're all working towards the same goal of helping people be safe and thrive.
And I'll ask you a little, when did you first become involved in this organization?
Yeah, so I started as a volunteer back in 2014 on the hotline. I was a full-time attorney and had 2 kids, but I knew I wanted to do something to help. And I said, hey, I can have a hotline shift Saturday night from home. And that really sparked an interest in doing this work full-time.
Hey, you're a good example of it. You went from volunteer and you went all the way up the ladder. There you go.
Get out there and volunteer, everyone. It's worthwhile, yeah.
And I guess for anyone who maybe is interested in getting involved in an organization like this, but maybe is a little bit nervous about it, how heavy the topic is, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I think it is, if you think about it as that we're helping people take the next positive step in their life. And sometimes, and that's all about empowering someone to make the best decisions for them. And you don't get to make the decisions for them. So you kind of take that, kind of a lot of that weight right off you, providing emotional support, tangible support, and it's just giving someone the resources and tools they need. So no savior complexes here. You're just, really being a support to someone.
And you mentioned the tangible kind, the digital equity, the more than a phone. Are those programs that have started or they're going to? Like, what phase are they in?
Yeah, so digital equity has started. We're already giving out those devices. And more than a phone is just kicking off now.
Great.
Right, so we're really excited to be able to kind of move domestic violence services into modern day. 20 years ago, you didn't need a cell phone, or probably even be able to get a cell phone, but now you need a cell phone. Most people, need one. So we're glad to be able to kind of advance our support in that way.
And I know we have to wrap up in a moment, but was there anything else that you wanted to mention about the organization that I maybe didn't cover or we didn't mention?
Yeah, we just would love to get involved, so if you have a business and would like to learn about how to support your employees, give us a call. If you are interested in holding a fundraiser for HAWC, give me a call. We always appreciate that. And any way we can collaborate and make sure that we're all prepared to help our friends and neighbors if they're going through something tough.
Great. Well, I want to thank you again so much for coming on to share some of this really important information.
Oh, thank you, Danny.
Great. Of course, anytime. And once again, this is the Lynn Lowdown. I'm Danny Vittori, and we'll see you next week with more guests.